Today we are going to be talking about the Mars M1, Hollyland's first monitor slash transceiver. Yes, you heard it right, transceiver. But before anything else, let's roll the intro. Paramount Pro. Hey, what's up guys, ryanaudencial and Puy. Thanks so much for coming back here on my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Hollyland's newest product. One of Hollyland's newest product. It is called the Mars M1. This is Hollyland's first ever monitor slash transceiver. Transceiver meaning a transmitter and a receiver. Transceiver. In this video, I am going to be telling you all the specs and features of this brand new monitor from Hollyland. But before we continue, let me give you a disclaimer. Yes, Hollyland did send me this monitor slash transceiver just to test, but they didn't pay me to create this review video, so all of my thoughts and opinions about this monitor slash transceiver will be honest and true. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go see first what's inside this box. Alright, inside the box you get a thank you card, a user manual, a tempered glass protector, you have your Mars M1 external monitor. They have already installed their capsule antennas. You have your D-tap to DC in cable. And we have here a USB OTG adapter. There. The Hollyland Mars M1 is a powerful external on-camera monitor. This product integrates not just a monitor but a transmitter and a receiver as well. Let's talk about the build quality first. First time I held this, I was like, damn, this is a tank. Well, as you can see here, it's not made out of cheap plastic. Let's go over to the back. We have our NPF style battery attachment here. We have our exhaust heatsink here. So yes, it has a fan. You won't be worrying about overheating. We have our DC out 8.4 volts here. So you can get power from your NPF style battery from this port. And on this port, you have your DC in 7 to 16 volts. So you can power this two ways. You have your NPF style battery. You can also use your 7 to 6 volts DC power adapter. On this side, you have your SDI in. I am using the red Komodo, and the red Komodo doesn't have an HDMI out, so it's good to know that they included a high quality SDI input right in here. Now you have your power button here. On this side, you have your 1/4 inch thread. You also have your USB in. So this is where you use this OTG adapter to input your LUTs. And on this side, you have your 3.5 millimeter jack or input. On this side, you have your HDMI in and HDMI out. So this monitor has a pass-through, so you can have a clean feed coming from your camera. Now you have your capsule type antennas here. These are amazing because they save space and they are very effective. And on this side, you have your 1/4 inch thread as well. So now that we're done talking about the build quality and the physical attributes or the physical features, let's power this thing on so that I can show you guys what are the other killer features this product has. So now I have set up my red Komodo with a Mars 400S Pro transmitter and sending the feed to my Mars M1, and the Mars M1 is in receiver mode. Let's talk about the Mars M1 as a monitor first. You may not see it using this camera, but as I see it here live, it's really crystal clear, and it's pretty much the same as I see it here on my red Komodo monitoring app. The Mars M1's 5.5 touchscreen monitor has 1000 nits of brightness. It is professionally calibrated in the factory before shipping, so you won't have to worry about the colors that it will produce. This monitor supports the Rec 709 color gamut. Now, as I've said, let's talk about the monitor features. You just have to touch it, and you have here settings that will help us through our shoot. So we have here our waveforms. We have here our vector scope. We have here our histogram. We have here our zebras. It has 0 to 100 IRE levels. We have here our peaking, red, yellow, green, blue, and white. You can adjust the intensity of the peaking. Next, we have our false colors. We have here our mono colors. We have here our aspect ratios. We can adjust the opacity of the aspect ratio guides. We have 16:9. We have, let me turn that opacity up. We have 4:3. We have 5:4. We have the vertical shooting mode, 2:1 aspect ratio, which is my favorite. We have our 2:9 aspect ratio. We have 2:5. We have 1.9. So to make this short, it has all the aspect ratios that we normally use. We have our LUTs. We have 5 preset LUTs installed already. You can also import your LUT using your USB flash disk and the OTG adapter. Okay, and then as we swipe left, we can see here more settings. We can adjust the temperature of the monitor. Normally I just use 5600. We have here our zoom feature there to check the focus. We have 4x zoom and 2x zoom. And I can say that the touch capabilities or the touch feature of this monitor is really responsive. We have the de-squeeze setting if ever you are using anamorphic lenses. We have our pause frame so that it's acting like a screenshot, so you can like compare screenshots if ever you are adjusting the lights or however you want to use it. Play it. You can like flip the display, and you have your grids as well. Let's go over to the settings. You have your wireless settings here. So you have 8 channels to choose from. If ever you're not sure what channel to use, you can always use the scan button right there. And then if ever you want to use your Mars M1 as a transmitter or a receiver, you can choose whatever you like here, or depending on your use case. You can use it as a transmitter or a receiver. If you have any troubles pairing your Mars M1 to your other receivers, or Mars 400S Pro or Mars 300S Pro or the Mars 4K, you can just always use the pair button there. And on your transmitter or receiver, you can set the pair button there as well. Fan control, you have your mute. And on this corner, you can see which mode you are in. Right now, it's in receiver mode. It's on channel 7, and you can also see the signal strength in there. On the other corner, you can see the battery status right there. So those are the features of the Mars M1 as a monitor, and how you can switch to transmitter mode and receiver mode. Okay, so now let's talk about the Mars M1 being a transmitter. I have now connected my Fujifilm X-S10 here to the Mars M1 using an HDMI cable. This is now acting as a transmitter. If you are going to be using your mobile devices, your tablets or your mobile phones using the HoloView app, you can connect up to 4 devices to the Mars M1 to get feed from the Mars M1. Now, if you already have your Mars Pro series like the 300 Pro, the 400S Pro, and the Mars 4K, you can connect up to 2 receivers at the same time. But do take note that if you have the Mars 400S, which I have here, you will not be able to connect it to the Mars M1 because this is not a Pro series. Just the 300 Pro, the 400S Pro, and the Mars 4K. Okay, so I have here a crazier setup happening. This is to test the Mars M1's latency as a transmitter. Right now I have my X-T4 connected straight to the Mars M1. Again, this is on transmitter mode. I have connected these using an HDMI cable. You can also see the Fujifilm X-T4's LCD right there. This way we can test the latency between the X-T4 and the Mars M1. Over here, I have my Mars 400S Pro acting as the receiver. It is connected to this monitor using an HDMI cable. So we can test the latency between the Mars M1 as the transmitter and the Mars 400S Pro as the receiver. We can test the wireless feed. I have here my timer. As you can see, there are no camera tricks happening right here. There are no green screens. I just want to remind you guys that this is not a scientific test. Now let me start my timer. And now let me just pause it. In this test, we can see that we sure have latency as expected. But to start off, you can see here that there is already latency between the timer and the X-T4. But we don't have to worry about that because for me, all I need is to figure out the latency between number 1, the X-T4 and the Mars M1 using an HDMI cable, which is, we can see here, a 0.22 millisecond latency. And number 2, the important part of the test, the latency between the Mars M1 as a transmitter and the Mars 400S Pro as the receiver. And as we can see here, we have a 0.04 millisecond latency. Now, there are a lot of factors at play here. The latency will always depend on the distance between the transmitter and the receiver. Not just that, the HDMI cable also plays a big factor in these types of tests. Now I have another setup here just to test the Mars M1's receiver mode. I have here my Fujifilm X-T4 and you can see its LCD right there. It is connected straight to my Mars 400S Pro transmitter using an HDMI cable, and again the Mars M1 is receiving the feed wirelessly from the Mars 400S Pro transmitter. Again, this is on receiver mode. Now I have here my timer again. Again, this is to test the latency of the Mars M1 as the receiver. Now let me start my timer now. And let me just pause it. As we can see, again, there is latency between the timer and the X-T4. But all I am after is the latency between the Mars 400S Pro transmitter and the Mars M1 receiver. Between these two, we have a 20 millisecond latency. That may be a lot for some of you, but for me, it is just fine as long as it's in the millisecond zone. But again, the latency will always depend on 1, the distance between the transmitter and the receiver, 2, the HDMI cable used. Also, the resolution and the frame rate plays a big factor in testing the latency. Now to test the range, I have used the Mars M1 outdoors during our short film shoot. I have set up a monitor, hooked it up to a Mars 400S Pro receiver using an HDMI cable. The Mars M1 was mounted on my Red Komodo the whole time, and it was sending wireless feed to my Mars 400S Pro for about 200 to 300 feet. I had no problems, no signal loss. The website said that the Mars M1 can transmit and receive the camera signal for up to 450 feet. But in normal scenarios, you wouldn't go beyond 300 feet anyway, so 400 feet is a lot of coverage distance, at least for my use cases. The Mars M1 supports 4K 30 frames per second HDMI input and loop out for expanded connectivity and compatibility. Not sure though if it can support 4K SDI input and loop out. I haven't got the chance to test that since I don't have a 12G SDI cable to send a 4K SDI signal. Now that we are done with the features and tests, here are my final thoughts about the Mars M1, and here are the things I like. Number 1, the build quality. As I've said earlier, this is built like a tank, so this will withstand anything that you throw at it. No, not literally anything. The second thing that I like about this Mars M1 is the image quality. Yes, this is Hollyland's first monitor, but the image quality that I get from this is unbelievable. They've used the common color calibration, so that gives me the confidence that I am seeing the right colors or the real colors that my camera is capturing. The next thing that I like is the SDI in or the SDI connection, because I am using a Red Komodo and the Red Komodo doesn't have an HDMI out. It only has SDI out, so this is perfect for those people that are using SDI connection. The fourth thing that I like is the fact that they've used this mushroom type antennas. They're small and compact, so it makes the monitor a little more inconspicuous. The only thing that I don't like about the Mars M1 is the latency. Yes, it's not that bad, but it's better if we have no latency at all. I know that's a little bit too much to ask. Now, if you're going to ask me, do I recommend the Mars M1? My answer is an absolute yes. Aside from the fact that it can transmit your camera signal up to 450 feet, the image quality and the monitor features on this one is really top-notch. And I'm saying it again, this is built like a tank. So if you're looking for your onboard camera monitor and you're also looking for a transmitter or a receiver, the Mars M1 has got you covered. Now that has been my review of the Hollyland Mars M1. If you want to know more about this product, make sure you check out the links below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell as well. Once again, this has been ryanaudencial. Thanks so much for being here, and see you in the next video.